Well, hello everyone, this is JOEDRUMS coming to you. Today we're going to be talking about tuning the snare drum from bottom to top. I had a lot of requests to do this. Right now I'm tightening each lug about 3 or 4 turns. Again, remember I do this by feel only. There's no other drum dials or any type of other equipment besides the drum key that I use to do this. So as you can see here, I'm just turning each one. I'm going counter or clockwise on each lug, going across from each one to make sure that the head goes down evenly. So not too much rocket science here. Again, I'm just doing it until the head comes down evenly. I keep checking each lug. And then when I'm finally done with this, I want to make sure that all the wrinkles are out of the head. That way I know there's no part that's looser than another or another part that's tighter than another. And I can look and feel. And I want the feel to be more like a soccer ball. I said this probably 100 times in a lot of my videos. A lot of people ask about tuning snare drums. And basically, again, I just make the bottom head feel like a soccer ball. Like when you push on a soccer ball, that soccer ball wants to give a little bit. And that's how the snare should be. The bottom head of the snare should be. Looks like I'm cleaning the dust off. Alright, now come the snares. I have the plastic strips instead of the string or the rope, whatever you want to call it. I think the plastic seems to last longer. It can get dry rotted depending on if you have wherever you have your drum at, and it's moist or damp, like in a basement. And I try to keep my drum room really dry. You might see in some of the videos I have this black looking thing. That's again a dehumidifier to keep it nice and dry in the drum room, because you don't want it damp in your basement or wherever your studio might be for your drums. And but you don't want it too dry either, especially if you have electronic equipment where you can have static and then you get shocks, and you might want to avoid that. So I'm putting on the side that does not have the strainer on the snare first. Oh, looks like I'm having a problem with the plastic strip. But once you get that, you want to make sure that the snare is evenly spaced across the drum head. You don't want to have the ends of the snare, the metal parts right there, on one side closer to the rim than the other. You want to have them evenly. So I'm putting it in there, and then I'm going to tighten that side up. But I'm going to make sure, see how I keep making sure it's even. That's just giving me a problem. Okay, but anyway, the name of the snare drum that I'm actually tuning here is called the DW Edge snare drum. And it actually has 2 metal hoops. Besides the rims, it has 2 metal hoops on top and bottom between the wood, maple wood shell. And gives the drum a lot more attack and real heavier crack sound, because the drum is really, really heavy. If you ever go to the store or you see an Edge snare drum, just try to pick it up. It's heavier than most snare drums. Even this particular one that I have here, which is a 13-inch. So now, as you can see, I'm putting on the side with the snare strainer. I'm going to tilt it on its side so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to put the plastic strip between the part that holds the strip to the strainer, and then I'm going to tighten that down with the drum key. And when you are tuning a snare drum, you want to have the strainer actually on, and just tighten it as best as you can with that. But you want to have a lot of space between the dial that loosens and tightens the snare drum. And the reason for that is if it's too loose or too tight, you want to be able to let it go or tighten it up if you need to. So again, when you do the snares, remember, it's a real important thing is to keep the snares as the strainer would be on the snare drum. Once that's done, then you'll have no problem getting a tight or a looser snare sound. But you got to have enough leeway between loosening and tightening the main knob on the strainer. Hopefully I made that clear. You can see I'm tightening and loosening it, see if I've got enough space. Alright, looks like it's pretty good. I'll tighten and adjust it later, but that looks pretty good. Alright, now you're going to see the metal hoop that goes on the top part of the snare drum. This thing is pretty heavy, but it has the bearing edge built right into it. There's the rim of the drum. There's the metal hoop. And you'll see it has a crystal clear bearing edge, really nice and sharp to give that drum just the maximum clarity. Wiping off any dust or any particles on the edge. Because remember, you don't want anything touching between the shell and the head, because that can cause problems. Alright, next goes the rim. And we'll finger tighten all of these. Time-lapse photography. Alright, now we'll do the same thing with the snare drum. Give it 3 or 4 turns. Again, sometimes I turn it 3 times to make it a little looser. Sometimes 4. Depends on the snare drum. But I guess I'm doing 3 on this one right now. The DW heads that come with the drums actually have numbers next to the lugs, which is a really nice thing if you want to do it accordingly. If you know the pattern already, you can look it up online. They do have information on how to tune a snare drum and what lug to go to for the cross tuning, and it makes it really handy. That way you don't have to guess, like, oh, what lug did I do next? Or, you know, which one do I do next? Alright, so we're tightening this baby up, and I'm trying to get the tone the same. Trying to make sure it's evenly tuned. Making sure the head goes down evenly on all lugs properly to give it the best maximum clarity and sound and brilliance that a snare drum should have. Snare drums are not supposed to be muffled, or they're supposed to ring out. A lot of people ask, well, you know, why do you let your snare drum ring so much? Well, if you're playing in front of a band, you know, with the band, and you're sitting in front, you can hear that snare a lot better when it's not muffled. If you tend to muffle it, it just sounds like some little, you know, toy snare drum sound. I don't tend to go for that kind of sound. I like the ring, and I want the power behind the drum. Alright, so here we go.